Hi, this is Jamey with Stonemeyer Games, and I'm here today to talk about my favorite game mechanism in the game Small World. Small World is a game where you are controlling different races or factions and basically trying to take over a portion of the world and get the most points at the end of the game. One of the best things about Small World, which I won't talk about today, but is the combination of races and abilities. There's these neat pairings where you have separate race tiles and ability tiles, and they line up differently each game. And you can bid on ones that you like more, or bid less on ones that are higher up on the track. And you get to play multiple combinations during the game. So you might play one race ability combo for a few turns, and then you'll have that race go into decline, and then you'll pick a new race and a new combination, which is neat that you can play multiple combos in the same game. But the thing I wanted to talk about today, which I think is really clever, and I've just now really begun to understand it as a designer, is the idea that you're collecting victory points over the course of the game, but you don't keep track of them on, say, a traditional victory point track, like one that goes around the board, like in Ticket to Ride, another game made by Days of Wonder. Instead, in Small World, you collect victory point tokens that look like coins. Essentially, I think they are the equivalent of coins, but they're used for victory points. And the backside of the coin, for every coin, is the same. But on the flip side is a number. It's not random when you pick it. So say if you gain 3 victory points, you'll pick 3 coins from the stack, all of which have 1 on them. So you know that you're getting 3 victory points. It's not random. But when you take those coins, you flip them over and put them face down in front of you. So other players don't know how many points you have. This is really cool for a couple reasons. One is the idea that other players don't know how many points you have. It means that they can't identify or pick on the leader of the game, which can happen in a game like this where there's a lot of interaction. Several players could gang up on one player. You might have a rough idea for someone that's doing better than other players, and you might gang up on them a little bit for that. There's some balancing there that happens in the game, but there's not like a clear front runner. It also helps all players kind of feel like they're in the running for the game, because they don't know exactly how other players are doing. You kind of get the feeling when you're playing Small World that everyone is pretty close throughout the game. The other thing that I think is really cool is the reveal at the end of the game. It's in a game where you have points that go around the track, you can do some things to make the end of the game exciting. You can have secret objectives or public objectives that aren't counted until the end. Like in Terra Mystica, you compare your cult track or your contiguous routes to other players, things like that. And so it creates some end game scoring. But in Small World, all you do is you sit there and you count up your points, and then you reveal the score. And this adds just a little bit of tension to the end of the game because you don't quite know who's going to win. And there's this reveal where you maybe think you have more points than others. Someone else ends up they have more points than you do. And I distinguish this from the point counting in a game like Seven Wonders or Agricola, where it's very mathematical and spreadsheety. Like you're going around the table, checking things off and tracking them on a little score sheet. And it makes the end game a little anticlimactic because only one player is really seeing those scores. In Agricola, sometimes you can add them up on your own score pad. It depends on how you like to score that game. But it can just be a little anticlimactic. And so I really like the way that Small World does it. I mention this because this is a mechanism that I've been debating. Like, I think this mechanism could essentially replace the traditional victory point track in any game if you have the budget to add that extra component. It does add the extra components of little tokens rather than a single token and a track around the board. So I don't know, it's an intriguing idea, and so I'm curious about your thoughts about this mechanism. If you think it's strictly better than a victory point track, or if there's some situations, some games where it's better than the victory point track, and other games where the victory point track is better. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I know there are a couple other games that use this mechanism, and honestly, I'm considering it for Scythe. So it's been on my mind a lot lately as to whether or not it would be advantageous to have it in a game like Scythe that has some strong Euro elements, but also has some strong interaction where players could pick on one player that's in the lead, which I think is partially good and partially not so good for that player who's in the lead. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks.